Good afternoon, members. We'll call to order the Committee on Jobs and Economic Development. It is Wednesday, February 18th. This is our very first hearing for 2026, and I am excited that you are here. We have some members that are going to appear by Zoom and others that will come in, but because we have this as an informational session, a quorum is not necessary, but it's always good to have a quorum present. First things first, I want to make you aware of the fact that you see that we have some security changes, some things have been modified, and so even with those security changes, I want to welcome you to the Minnesota Senate, and we certainly always appreciate your interest and participation in the legislative process. To ensure everyone can view, hear, and understand today's proceedings, we ask for your cooperation in maintaining decorum and civility throughout these hearings, or this hearing, as well as all the other hearings. And for your safety, security, and comfort of all attendees, please note the following things. Number one, that I'll do everything that I can within my power to always maintain control of these proceedings. And I have the following expectations. One is signs and placards are not permitted in the hearing room. So I know sometimes we live in a society where folks want to hold up signs and that sort of things. Those things are not permitted in the hearing room. Verbal outbursts, shouting, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. We always conduct ourselves in a manageable way, in an appropriate way, in this committee as well as throughout the campus. Applause or other audible demonstrations are not allowed, so even if I want you to give me a hand, you can't give me a hand, okay? But you can certainly smile, you know, that's important. Or laugh at the appropriate time. And for safety reasons, standing or sitting in walkways and aisles or standing or obstructing at your chair is prohibited. If you require any accommodations, please speak with our sergeant staff. And if sometimes you can't hear us and you want us to turn up the volume, please let us know that as well. State troopers and security personnel are present to ensure everyone's safety. Failure to comply with these guidelines may result in your removal from the hearing room. Our goal is to conduct these proceedings efficiently, while ensuring everyone the opportunity to observe and participate. So thank you for your understanding of that. We thought that would be important to state expeditiously. Without the need for there to be a quorum, which we're happy a quorum is present. Members, we will hear a presentation, and audience, I like to always give a roadmap of what is going to happen today, and so this will just be the first of the various times that I always give a roadmap. And today we'll hear a presentation from our state demographer, Susan Brower, get an overview presentation from DEED and Explore Minnesota, as well as to hear a presentation from the Women's Foundation on the economic status of women and girls in Minnesota. And I'm always graced to have Roxanne Battle here with us today, so I can't wait to hear their presentation. You sometimes will see her on as an anchor on Carrie Levin, so now I'm going to get a chance to grill her. Maybe that can happen. But first, I'd like to do a quick round of introductions. Let me start with, on the end there, the great Susan Pa.
Thank you, Chair. So Senator Susan Pa represents Senate District 38, which is Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and Osseo.
I guess I'm not so great.
You are great, let me just say.
Thank you, Chair. Rich Draheim. I represent parts of 7 counties, starting northwest of Jordan, all the way down to Iowa. Thank you.
And Senator Draheim is also our lead as well, so we're always excited to have him.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taylor Tidwell Bennett, and I serve as Senator Champion's Committee Legislative Assistant.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Melton. I am Senator Champion's Committee Administrator for the Jobs and Economic Development Committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlin Doyle Fontaine. I am Senate Counsel to the Jobs Committee as well as the Labor Committee.
And before we go to the next person, I want to say, because those who come to this committee on a regular basis know that that's not Hannah that's sitting there. And as you know, our brilliant fiscal analyst, Hannah Grunwald Norton, is expecting her first child. And we will miss her this session, but we are so excited for her. In her stead, we get the wonderful Casey Mum back to the Jobs Committee, and he can introduce himself because he used to be a part of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm Casey Mum, filling in for Hannah Grunwald-Noldner while she's on leave. I did staff the committee for a while years ago, but now I normally staff the Taxes Committee. Happy to be back.
And knowing Hannah, she's probably looking at us right now because she wants to make sure that Casey and Bobby Joe Champion are doing the right thing. So we'll go to our vice chair.
And if Hannah has a baby and it's a girl, when she has a baby, Zainab is a great name. Just a heads up. Hi, everybody. I'm Zainab, and I represent parts of South Minneapolis.
Eric Pratt, represents Scott County.
Senator Fong Her, represent East Side St. Paul.
Good afternoon. I'm Carla Nelson. I live in Rochester, represent Olmsted County, Dodge County. I'm in my 5th term in the Senate. Thank you.
And we have a couple interns and also folks at the back that I'd like for them quickly to come up to a microphone and introduce themselves because they're important as well, because they are sometimes behind the scenes and helping to make sure this committee works. So come expeditiously, my good ones, as well as Damien as well. So if you guys can identify yourselves and your name.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Andy Larson, Senate Republican Research.
I'm Brooklyn. I am a committee page.
Georgia Barnes, Senator Mohammed's LA.
Finian, committee page.
My name is Paige Murphy. I'm a law clerk for the Senate Office of Research and Fiscal Analysis.
And I told Paige that I wouldn't hold it against her that she's at the University of Minnesota, so I wanted to make sure she knew that.
So, hello everyone. My name is Rasul. I'm intern at the Senate of the Council of the Research Analysis.
My name's Eli Catter. I'm interning for Senator Rest's office.
Hi, Damian Moore, DFL researcher for this committee and also capital investment.
Are we missing the, Andy? Are you coming up? Oh, he went already. Okay. Oh, see, you know, Tom wasn't paying attention and he was like wanting me to make certain that I said something. I know that Senator Gustafson has joined us. Senator Gustafson.
Yes, sorry, thank you. I had to run home really quick. I'm Heather Gustafson. I represent Senate District 36, 9 cities, but the 3 biggest ones are Vadnais Heights, White Bear Lake, and Lino Lakes. Thanks.
Thank you again. I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance to be introduced because it takes all of us in order to make this committee go, and I sincerely appreciate everyone's effort. So now, members, we will hear a presentation from our state demographer, Susan Brower. We will get an overview from her, an overview presentation so that she can tell us what is going on in the state of Minnesota, right? And so with that, Ms. Brower.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Susan Brower. I'm Minnesota State Demographer, and I work in the Department of Administration. Today, I've been asked to share an overview of Minnesota's labor force demographics. I'll discuss how quickly or slowly the labor force has grown in recent years, the role that immigration has played in that growth, and provide some specific information about individuals who are not currently in the labor force. This last group may represent a potential pool of workers that policies or programs could help engage. And so that's my plan. Minnesota's labor force growth has slowed over time. You can see that in this chart. This chart shows the annual growth rate since 1990. And during the 1990s and the 2000s, annual growth rate was at about 1.5% to 2% each year. But by the early 2010s, that rate had fallen to about 0.5% per year. In the recovery period after the Great Recession, kind of where this chart begins, labor force growth was constrained by job availability. But as the economy strengthened, as jobs were added, Over that long expansion period, since the Great Recession, demographic factors emerged as an impediment to growth. In the late 2010s and in the early 2020s, both before and after the pandemic, where you see that dip there, we saw a leveling off in that, or a deceleration of the growth that we had seen in the 1990s. During that period, Minnesota experienced brief periods of increased immigration, which likely contributed to the stabilization of that deceleration or that downward trend that we saw. So Minnesota's demographics, the underlying kind of foundational demographics, explain why we saw slower labor force growth over that period. This chart is looking at the entire working age population, so every living, breathing human being 16 and older across time from 1990, it goes to 2024. And the population is divided into 3 age groups, 16 to 24, people who are often in schools or newly entering the workforce, people who are ages 25 to 64 in the gray, which are in their prime working years, where we see the highest labor force participation rates. And then we see the lighter blue color, ages 65 and older, where many people are transitioning into retirement. The gray section, those in their prime working years, was growing steadily over the 1990s to about the mid-2000s, and then we saw that leveling off just around around 2010 or so, maybe a little bit before. And that happened as the large baby boom generation, the oldest of the baby boomers, reached age 65 in 2011, and you can start to see that older adult population grow in this graph right around that time, where people are transitioning from their prime working ages into their older ages. And that shift alone affects the size and pool of people who are available and likely to participate in the labor force. These patterns that we're seeing here in the underlying working age population are not unique to Minnesota. This is something that's happening across many states and even the US as the country ages and as we see falling birth rates. So slower labor force growth is just the predictable outcome of these longer term demographic trends. It is, again, not unique to Minnesota. So if we're looking here at everyone available to work, next I'm going to show you just a similar graph, but just the people who are actually in the labor force. So again, everyone who's available, and now this is everyone, the same age groups, those who are working or actively seeking work, meaning they're in the labor force. Participation rates differ significantly by age. So while older adults age 65 and older make up a growing share of the population, as we just saw, only about 1 in 5 are in the workforce. In contrast, those who are of prime working age, about 85% are participating in the labor force, and about 71% of those overall 16 to 24 years old. Minnesota's labor force participation rate tends to be higher than the national average, especially for the young adult group, for the prime age group. It's about on average for older adults, just 1 percentage point higher than the national average there. But from a policy perspective, this matters. Participation among prime age workers is already very high, which potentially limits how much additional growth we can expect from that group. Older adults represent a growing population, but the participation at these ages is naturally lower due to retirement. So any effort to expand the labor force will need to consider where there's realistic room for increased participation and what barriers may be preventing people from engaging more fully. This slide looks at labor force participation rates by age in Minnesota, comparing 2010, the dotted line, to the most recent data that we have, 2024. And it shows that over the past 15 years, participation rates among older adults has increased, though it's done so relatively modestly. For example, participation among 60 to 64-year-olds rose from about 55% in 2000 to about 66% in 2024, the most recent time period. And at the same time, we saw labor force participation rates decline among our youngest age group, teenagers 16 to 19 years old. For the vast majority of people of working age, those in those prime years, participation has remained consistently high and largely unchanged. There's been a little bit of growth, but mainly we've seen that stability across those age groups. And that pattern suggests that we may have reached kind of a practical ceiling for participation among prime age adults under the current conditions that we have, the current work arrangements that we have. Strong labor demand alone doesn't appear to draw significantly more people into the workforce at these ages, at least, again, under the current situation. So if that's the case, future gains in labor force participation will likely depend on structural factors like access to affordable childcare, availability of flexible or part-time work, disability accommodations, transportation access, credential recognition for immigrants, and policies that make continued work more feasible for adults. In other words, the question is less about whether the jobs exist and more about whether work is accessible to people and whether the benefits of working outweighs the benefits of not working. And that brings us to one demographic factor then that can move more quickly than either birth rates or retirements, which is kind of what we've been looking at in the past graph, and that's migration. This slide shows domestic net and international net migration for Minnesota from 1991 to 2025. And the dark bars represent international net migration, so the total number of people gained due to international migration in any given year. The light bars, the gray bars, represent domestic net migration, people moving to and from other states. And then the line represents adding those two components together, so just total migration. One consistent feature of this graph is that domestic migration has been negative in most years after the early 2000s. Minnesota has generally lost more residents to other states than it's gained. However, the preliminary data, or the data that we have for 2025 that were just released last month, show a small positive net domestic increase or gain from domestic migration, which means in that year, more people were estimated to have moved to Minnesota than moved away. That's not unprecedented. We have seen it in the late 2010s for a couple of years. That was our estimate, but it is unusual relative to the recent history and kind of the long-term history of losses year over year. There are also two periods in this graph that show kind of elevated levels of international net migration that are worth noting. First, between about 2014 and 2016, Minnesota experienced international inflows that contributed to labor force growth meaningfully. And then second, the more pronounced period from about 2022 to 2024, when international migration rose to levels that we hadn't seen in many decades. In both periods, international migration offset domestic outflows and strengthened overall population growth. The 2022 to 2024 increase, the most recent period, was substantially larger and helped to boost the size of Minnesota's workforce at a time that we saw that decelerating growth. Now, because migration can change more quickly than birth rates can, than patterns of retirement can, it represents one of the few near-term sources of workforce growth in a state with aging demographics. If international migration slows or if domestic gains do not continue, labor force growth is likely to revert to that slower pace that's determined by those underlying foundational kind of demographics, which will have consequences for Minnesota. And the elevated levels that we saw in 2022 to 2024 did not continue into 2025. We can see the difference here. In fact, there was a significant shift there. Nationwide, net international migration fell from 2.7 million to 1.3 million. And in Minnesota, that estimate was about 33,000 people gained from international migration in 2024 compared to 12,500 in 2025. And this period's labeled 2025, but it's actually the last part of 2024 and the first 6 months of 2025. So we will expect in future years, if migration kind of policies continue as they have been, federal policies continue as they have been, that we'll continue to see lower levels of migration in Minnesota or international immigration in Minnesota going forward. The practical implication is that Minnesota is likely to return to labor force growth rates that are driven primarily by our underlying demographics rather than the boost from migration that we saw for a few years there. This slide looks at the birthplace of Minnesota workers from 1990 to 2024, and the gray area represents Minnesota-born workers. Dark blue is workers who were born in another state, and the lighter blue color are workers who were born in another country. Between 2011 and 2024, Minnesota's labor force grew by about 228,000 workers, according to this data source. Of that increase, about 58%, or 131,000 of those workers, were individuals born outside of the United States. What's also important is what didn't change much. The number of workers born in other states stayed relatively constant throughout that period. And while we know that there's a small net loss in some years, a net gain, by and large, that number of workers who are here in Minnesota but born in another US state has remained pretty stable over the last 15 years or so. This means that recent workforce expansion has come primarily from two sources: that modest growth among Minnesota-born workers, people aging into the working years, and also from international immigration from foreign-born workers, with the latter accounting for a slightly larger share. So if international inflows continue to moderate, overall labor force growth will likely slow. This slide looks at selected occupations in Minnesota where immigrant workers represent both a large number of workers and also a substantial share of the workforce. So the gray bars are the number of foreign-born workers in each occupation, and the blue dots show you the percentage of workers within that occupation. And what we see is that immigrant workers are not evenly distributed across the labor market. They play a particularly significant role in certain sectors. In healthcare support roles such as nursing assistants, personal care aides, home health aides, foreign-born workers make up a significant share of the workforce. In production and manufacturing, such as machine operators, metal and plastic workers, hand packagers, and meat processing workers, the foreign-born share is even higher, particularly for food processing in agricultural sectors. We also see a substantial representation in building services and cleaning occupations, as well as in certain professional roles like software development, college professors, and physicians. And so immigrants are concentrated in occupations that are essential to health, food production, manufacturing, education, and service delivery. Changes in the migration level that we saw in the last year, therefore, won't affect all sectors equally. Some industries are more exposed to those shifts in international migration than others. And as those levels fluctuate, the impact is likely to be felt more acutely in some of those occupations than others. So far, I've focused on the size and composition of Minnesota's labor force. I'd like to turn to those people who are currently not in the workforce, because understanding who they are helps us assess whether additional labor supply might realistically come from those groups. In 2024, about 643,000 people of working age in Minnesota were not in the labor force. That means they were either employed, they were either not employed or not seeking work outside of the labor force. About 29%, 186,000, were in school. About 16%, roughly 104,000, were retired. They were in early retirement under the age of 65. And the remaining 55%, about 354,000 individuals, fall into kind of an other category, which I'll go into more in a moment. So while the top line number, that 643,000, is pretty large, the practical question is how many of these individuals could realistically re-enter the workforce or enter the workforce under different policy or economic conditions. This slide breaks down that number a little bit more. We see that 186,000 that are enrolled in school. The majority of those are in high school or undergraduate programs, with a smaller number in graduate school. For this group, non-participation is temporary. It's tied to educational investment, of course. For the next, about 104,000 people ages 55 to 64, they're estimated to be retired. So they're under the age of 65, but they appear to have exited the labor force, often after long work histories. For this group, financial readiness or security may allow for early retirement, meaning traditional wage incentives alone may not be sufficient enough to draw them back in. In those cases, decisions about reentry may be more influenced by job flexibility, job design, or personal motivation than by earnings alone. We also see that about 178,000 individuals outside of the labor force of this age report having a disability. And in these data, it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly what that disability is and whether it prevents them from working. But we have a sense when we look at those receiving supplemental security income, of which that the higher level number, the 178,000, about 42,000 of those also receive SSI, and so we can assume that that group likely has a disability that prevents them from working. That leaves about 136,000 people who do not receive SSI but have a disability. Among those, we don't know if they're ineligible for that program, if they're receiving because of income, if their disability is not kind of severe enough to prevent them from working. But what we're trying to do here is narrow down the pool of potential workers based on these different characteristics, and this is the best way I know how to do it with the data that we have. Finally, about 64,000 parents of young children ages 0 to 5 are not in the labor force. Most live with a spouse or partner who's working, although there's a small share that are single parents or have a partner who's also not employed. The broader takeaway here is that Minnesotans who are not in the labor force are not a single group. They include students, retirees, people with disabilities, caregivers, and others facing different circumstances. And understanding that diversity is really important when you're going to plan for how we find additional labor supply. There may be very different barriers for people in these different groups. This slide shows the percentage of each cultural, racial group in Minnesota that is not in the labor force. And for these data, it's over the period 2019 to 2023. And as you can see, labor force participation rates vary considerably across these groups. These differences reflect more than one factor. Age structure plays a significant role. Some communities have younger populations, which can raise non-participation rates because more individuals are in school or they have young children at home. Other groups have older age distributions. But across the groups, age is one factor that plays a role in labor force participation. There are also different barriers to labor force entry that we haven't discussed yet. These can include differences in educational access, credential recognition for immigrants, English language proficiency, health disparities, geographic concentration, just a lot of different circumstances depending on the group. And I won't go into any one group in particular, but I just wanted to raise for you that this is also a dimension of both what's going on with non-participation and with potential policy responses to those differences. So Minnesota's labor force challenges have demographic foundations. Our working age population is growing slowly. I think I told you that last year when I was here at the beginning of session. I may say it again if I'm invited back next session. It's likely to continue because it's the underlying demographic trends that are creating that slow growth. It's new for Minnesota, but it's not unusual compared to other states. In the past few years, international immigration has buoyed our labor force growth at a time when it had been slowing. And when international immigration increased, we saw the impact of that in our labor force numbers. At the same time, people who aren't in the labor force aren't a single untapped group. They include a diversity of circumstances. And so Minnesota's future workforce will depend on how well we can support participation, how migration trends evolved, and how effectively we match people to opportunity. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you so much. A couple questions and then we'll go around the table. My first question for you is, looking at slide 8, it points out that between 2024 and 2025, immigration levels have fallen by about a half nationally and about 40% here in Minnesota. Can you tell us in terms of dollars, jobs, and economic health, what the impact on our economy is from immigration being cut in half?
Mr. Chair, I do not have those numbers. I know that there are some folks who have worked on to put a dollar figure on the economic contribution of immigrants, and they may, those numbers were just released in late December. They may have new estimates. I'd be happy to check and see if those are out.
That'd be great. And then can you tell me, when I look at when you're talking about that the younger age group has declined, when we think in terms of those entering the job market, I think, and if I'm wrong, correct me, and then you can put meat on these skeletal bones. Do you have any sense as to why there is that decline with the younger group of people?
Mr. Chair, in terms of labor force participation or the numbers?
Yes, in terms of labor force participation.
You know, I haven't seen any study that specifically addressed that, but we have seen that in the data now for year after year that that's been the case. I would suspect that kind of the activity level, kind of what's put on young people now is different than in the past, and that there may be, for a larger group, there may be less of motivation to work that there has been in the past because they're really focused on academic achievement, and that can spread out across all hours of the day. But I haven't seen a study that would say that specifically, and it certainly doesn't cover all young people in the state.
And you stated that labor demand doesn't increase participation, and I want to make sure that I capture that correctly. So even if we had a ton of jobs, that doesn't within itself increase participation. Can you speak a little more to that?
Mr. Chair, yes. So what we have seen as the labor market has become more and more tight, as that growth has slowed and as there have been more and more job vacancies kind of open up over the last half of the 2010s and after the pandemic, is that we don't see movement into the labor force that matches kind of the demand that's there. We have seen people move from part-time to full-time work, so we've seen shifts within the workforce. We have seen people move, we've seen wages go up, so we know that that people may be moving into better paying jobs or jobs that match their skill set better, but generally we don't see that that people are moving into the workforce in great numbers of those who had been outside before. That number that's outside the labor force, that 643,000, that stayed about the same for many, many years as jobs have been added.
And you indicated that for a long time, Minnesota was losing population, for lack of a better word, but then you said that there was a smaller window where we were gaining migration domestically. Do you have a sense as to what accounts for that? Was it the weather?
I wish I knew, Mr. Chair. I think what's important to understand with these numbers, it looks like there's a clear switch, like an on and off switch when you look at this graph. But we're really talking about over 100,000 people moving in each direction. And so what tips the scales in any one year from positive to negative, these are relatively small net numbers compared to all the full kind of flow of people in and out of the state. And so I don't have a clear answer. I haven't seen any study that could pinpoint exactly what makes those numbers go from negative to positive. I just share them with you here so that you understand kind of what the general trend has been over time.
And my last question, and then the others can chime in, is that according to your slide 10, about half of all machine operators and 30 to 40% of physical scientists and metal and plastic workers are foreign born. And so it appears that we're not simply talking about an impact that international migration doesn't only impact the agricultural industries, but also other job sectors. Can you speak a little more about that, and did I get that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair. And in fact, while I didn't present it, I was looking at occupations before. I've also looked at industries, which I'm showing here. And we can see across the board, there are many different industries that are impacted. Restaurant and food services, hospitals, colleges and universities. Across the board, there are certain occupations and particular jobs that have high concentration, high representation of foreign-born workers.
Senator Pott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at slide 3, where it talks about the labor force growth rate. And I noticed that during the time of COVID, there was quite a bit of a decline in that rate. And then it slowly went back up. And then in 2024 and 25, it started declining again. My concern is that I think we're going to see a decline again this year. During COVID-19, Minnesota experienced both temporary and permanent declines in labor force participation due to illness or caregiving or early retirements. Based on what you've seen over the past year, particularly in the last few months with increased federal immigration enforcement activities here, are we observing some level of comparable workforce disruption that you anticipate? And then a second to that is, would any enforcement-related labor force withdrawals likely be temporary or structurally long-term? Do you anticipate any of that?
To the testifier, Ms. Brower.
Mr. Chair, Senator, the The numbers that we have now are lagged, so we don't have real-time measures of the impacts. I will say, with respect to kind of the current disruptions, I think the permanent impact will be if we don't have an ongoing supply of workers. If people decide not to move here because they choose not to, or if they don't move here because they're unable to, given federal immigration policies. That's what I see as kind of the major potential uncertainty and the potential kind of threat to growth. In terms of labor force participation of the people that we have here already, yes, we did absolutely see that dip during the pandemic and kind of inch back up afterwards, even among people who were caregivers. It took a while, but eventually we kind of saw those numbers come back up again. You know, I would expect, I don't know what to expect. I would expect that you know, if we see major disruptions in work, that we'll see some impact on labor force participation.
Thank you. I look forward to the numbers for this year because I really do believe that it's going to have a big impact on our growth. Thank you.
Senator Draheim, who is trying to make sure that his rock and roll music doesn't go off anymore. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the discussion. Sorry, I thought I had it on mute. My first question has to do with slide 12 and the 643,000 number. What is the total population in that 16 to 64 age range?
To the testifier, Ms. Brower.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I wish I had that number in front of me. I have 25 to 64 is 2.4 million, but I can get back to you adding those additional.
Okay. Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Chair. It just seems a little light. If you know, 643 seems like a low number. On slide 7, when we're talking about the immigration numbers, to me it looks like we're coming back to a normal level. If we go back the last 20 years, you know, it looks more normal than the previous 3 years for the data that you show here. So I know it's quite a drop for a 1 year, but when you go back over the last 20 years, it is almost average.
To the testifier, Ms. Brower.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I did some quick math. The overall number is 2.9 million to your last question. 600,000 really is the number, the 640,000 to 650,000 is the number that has remained in the data steadily for the last, besides during the pandemic 2020, about 650,000 is what's been outside, the number outside the labor force. And then with respect to this immigration trend, I would agree with you. That's absolutely right, that this is much higher than average. What we've seen between 2022 and 2024, you can see that here, much higher than we saw even in 1991. But what I will say is that the context of what's happening with internal growth is very different. We're in a very different place in terms of our own growth momentum, that we just don't have that in the same way that we had in earlier periods, even, you know, in the early 2010s. And so while we may be returning back to kind of average levels of international immigration, it's at a time where we don't have our own internal growth and don't expect to have it in the future because birth rates continue to be very low.
Any further follow-up,
Just
Senator?
one last statement. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dr. Brower. The population growth, the rural areas need population. And, we're shrinking in rural Minnesota. And so I'm all for doing whatever we need to do to bring people to the rural areas. Our population shrinks every year, it makes it harder and harder for the businesses to survive in the rural areas. So I understand that. I just wanted to point out that I just felt that we were being a little deceptive on the numbers with the discussion we were having on that, yes, it's quite a drop, but we're back to normal on that. So thank you.
Anything you want to say to that, Ms. Brower?
Mr. Chair, Senator, I certainly didn't mean to show numbers that were deceptive, but I appreciate you pointing out that we're returning to a more normal level, albeit a different context than we were at 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
And context matters, right? Because you're saying the birth rates are down. There's some differences in what we're doing domestically, as well as now we're having some challenges internationally when we think in terms of migration. Senator Nelson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Brower, thank you for the informative presentation and the slides. I've been going through them with you. I noted your comment, patterns are not unique, these patterns are not unique to Minnesota. And I think that is important for us to understand. But we should really focus on those things over which we have jurisdiction here in Minnesota so that we can get to that full labor force that we need. And one of the things that I would like maybe just a little bit more information on, maybe later if more appropriate, but the domestic net migration. I saw that in slide 7. And it just seems that we are, and I'd like to know how our domestic net migration compares to other states, for example. So, you know, one of the things we often hear, one of the things I often hear about, of course, we hear when businesses leave our state. We hear about that.
Yeah.
And we hear about when our constituents aren't here anymore, and they have gone to other states, and they're on voter rolls in other states. So we hear those things, and I'm hopeful that Minnesota is a state where people choose to come and not choose to leave. And so it would be helpful for me to see how does our domestic net migration compare to other states. The other thing we often hear about is companies that might expand, but they expand in other states. They're not expanding here in our state, or maybe it feels that way sometimes. So I'd like to get those details as well, again, about that domestic net migration. And then I noticed, you know, we've often heard about Fortune 500 companies. We love our Fortune 500 companies to be in our state, those jobs they provide. And of course, we're sad when any leave our state and the thousands of jobs that go with them. And I've been on the Jobs Committee off and on since 2011, so quite a history there. And I remember having a hearing kind of like this of Fortune 500 folks, and it was wonderful to hear about how these companies had come to Minnesota, grown in Minnesota. And I remember asking the question of them, well, if you were going to expand today, would you expand in Minnesota? And maybe that wasn't a fair question. I was a freshman. I was unaware that that might be putting somebody on the spot. But I asked the question. And I will tell you, the silence was deafening. Nobody said that we would be expanding in Minnesota. And, you know, I'm hoping things have changed, but I did a little research here. And in almost 3 decades, we have not had a single new Fortune 500 company locate to our state. I hope I'm wrong, but that was the research that I found. And so that kind of is the background about why I want to know about our domestic net migration, and maybe we can ferret down and see why is it that we're not seeing that growth in our beloved state. We'd like to see that. And the last thing I would add, before a session started again, you know, I noted that none of our newspapers in the Minneapolis, in the metro area, are no longer being printed here. They are being printed in Iowa. And I'm scratching my head, Mr. Chair, and I'm thinking, Why is it that it's more, I'm assuming cost effective, for these papers to be printed in Iowa and trucked up here than having them printed in Minnesota? And I don't know why that is, but I think we should take a look at those things and find out. And I'm hoping maybe you can give some more insight onto domestic net migration.
And Dr. Brower, I'm not sure if you took a note of all those various things, but I'm certain that Senator Nelson's a lawyer. And, because we sometimes go in and out with all these questions. But I will say that Deed is here. They may be able to speak to the question around Fortune 500 businesses. I know that there's other things they can talk about, from Northwind to other things that are going on that will help address that question. But if Ms. Brower is able to answer any of those questions, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator. I can speak to the domestic net migration and how we vary, for sure. The Midwest and the northeastern states are kind of in the same boat that we are, and they have been for a very long time. And so there's a region of the state, the Frost Belt, it's sometimes called, that's colder, that just hasn't received the same level of migration that other parts of the U.S. have, in the Southwest and in the South. And those patterns have been set in place for decades. And they're very hard, they don't change very quickly. It's not that they can't change, but we don't see many areas that are really bucking the trend. It's that overall kind of immigration pattern that we see regionally, of which Minnesota is a part. That's how I understand it in the broader context of the region. That's not to say it couldn't be different, but we're in an area of the state where we don't have, or in an area of the U.S. where we just don't have the regular flows that the South does and that the Southwest does have. And I'm happy to follow up with a map with those numbers.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions before we go on to D? Seeing none, Ms. Brower, as usual, thank you for being such a jewel and a wealth of information, and we look forward to you circulating the information that you're going to provide for all of us, and we'll continue to call on you because I'm certain that there are things we're going to talk to you about. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We are now go to, next we'll have Deed come to present. So the commissioner and any others could come on up to the testifiers table. That would be great. And once you come to the testifiers table and get ready to start your presentation, for the record, please state your name and then proceed with your testimony. Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you so much.
We have another chair coming for you. And do we need another one for, I thought I saw someone.
Deputy Commissioner Majors as well.
He just ran to the bathroom.
Great.
And so if we could get one more chair.
We can swap out.
Okay, got it. No problem. Thank you. Thank you. You're on top of it. I like it. All right, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, staff, thank you all for welcoming us back to the committee. I might well have come today, even if you hadn't summoned us, to hear Susan Brower, who is always great, and our friends at Explore as well. I'm Matt Verlek, Commissioner of the Department of Employment and Economic Development, and am accompanied by Devin Bowdry, our Director of Government Relations, and then 3 Deputy Commissioners from the agency that you know and will be reintroduced to as they cover their portions of our agency update.
And just so that the committee knows that we have a presentation on PFML that is scheduled for Monday. We did have it for Wednesday, then we switched it back to Monday. Just so you know that Deed will not be talking about PFML today. Commissioner, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I think we're just getting the presentation projected, but maybe no success yet.
Let's see, anyone else can be of any assistance?
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if we've given hard copies or we can just
Yes.
talk it. Yeah, so if
We have hard
that's
copies. You can
acceptable.
start. Thank you.
We could continue that way for sake of time. Thank you. Okay, in that case, as you know, this is our agency update, so I will just share a few thoughts at the top, and then we will go to the programmatic deputies who are with us. And just a reminder, as you all know very well, but we are very proud of our mission, and that guides all that we do. It is to empower the growth of the Minnesota economy for everyone. So as we always emphasize, it's about growing prosperity in this state and extending that prosperity to more of our fellow Minnesotans. And we hope there to be more of those Minnesotans, which you just discussed, and would be happy, in fact, to get into some of that subject matter as well, if the opportunity allows. And at the bottom, too, I would note our values. These are the ways we try to operate, and I hope that you experience those as you interact with us. So, at a very high level, would acknowledge, number one, that we have been going through a very, very hard time in this state lately. Things look a little bit better today than they did a week ago, and we remain optimistic and like to emphasize where we can the many wonderful strengths of our state. And so here we just have a few of them on the screen, or on my screen and on your paper. One example relevant to the work of this committee is our 5-year business survival rate, which regularly is among the best in the nation. In some years, it is literally the best in the nation, and the last figures we found were that we were number 5, which is a nice marker. Maybe this is a good spot also to just ad lib and mention, okay, so that's on the startup side of the business spectrum. On the longer-lived side of the spectrum, the large businesses, we were talking about Fortune 500s, and in fact, I was with some of you last night at the Minnesota Chamber Legislative Priorities Dinner, and I sat at the table of Solventum, which of course is the newest Fortune 500 company in Minnesota. So we are proud to have added one. I think it's not typical that a Fortune 500, an entity of that scale would move across borders, but what happens more often is organic expansion or through acquisition, et cetera. And in this case, of course, Solventum is the healthcare-related spin-out of 3M, also Minnesota company. So we're proud of that. And if you consider the fact related to what Dr. Brower was mentioning, or Demographer Brower was mentioning, about the fact that much of the nation's population growth is sort of in the Sun Belt, in the southern states, we are growing, but at a lesser rate. So our share of national population is smaller, and yet having 17 Fortune 500 companies means that really on a per capita basis, we have an impressive performance. We always want to do more, but we are also proud of what we have done. In the next bullet, we note that in terms of happiness, Minnesota ranks very well. The governor often likes to mention that Hawaii beats us on that one, and they do have a weather advantage, so we think we're doing pretty well considering that it gets cold here. We are very low on poverty relative to other states, something we're very proud of. And then when it comes to education, and you're gonna try to get that projected, and maybe I can keep talking if that works as well while you do that. I have a printout myself. I think we note that we are third in median income, another good marker. And then at the bottom, we do note that workforce has, of course, been a challenge for us in recent times. And if I had to synthesize or just summarize in very simple terms, what do business leaders tell me they need? Oftentimes it is just more people with talent and capacity to build on that talent and deliver higher value in the workplace. And so if we can add more people, that is a benefit, and that's why we're very focused on the workforce development side of the equation. Moving on to the next slide, the deed at a glance slide. This is just a reminder of kind of where we fit in the ecosystem of state government and the state overall. We are the state's principal economic development and workforce development agency. On the business side, we're focused both on attraction as well as retention and growth and expansion to create jobs for all Minnesotans, and related to the conversation we were having recently about the appetite for businesses to expand in Minnesota, whether it is homegrown Minnesota companies or from elsewhere. I mean, it reminds me, we visited with the governor a while ago, I think it was Winnebago, and they're a company that moved here from Iowa some years ago, and just off the top of my head, and I'm sure Deputy Commissioner McKinnon could list more companies that have expanded recently, but we are proud to have recently been at a groundbreaking for a DemCon in the Shakopee area on an anaerobic digester that will make energy out of food waste. Senator Champion, Chair Champion, we were at Northwind together, which is a very exciting project that has significant private capital, state capital through the Forward Fund that you all helped to create, and then the federal government as well when it comes to aerospace, Niron Magnetics, Philips in the med tech space, Solventum that I mentioned, and others. And so we are proud of those successes and want to drive more. And then on the workforce side, we connect workers to jobs, we prepare individuals for jobs in high demand industries, and support people to live independently. Our next slide, at one point we had deeper into the presentation, but I wanted to move it up to proactively note to you that fraud prevention, detection, and oversight are very important priorities of ours. We're proud of the results we've achieved. We've talked before in some detail about the fact that DEED runs a wide variety of programs, each of which requires a different approach to fraud prevention and oversight. It's one thing when you're talking large-scale incentives to large businesses. It's another thing when you're talking about small-scale grants to small businesses, or another thing still when you're talking about paid family medical leave, wage replacement, or grants to nonprofits under workforce development, et cetera. But we have thorough processes, and in fact, we've presented in front of the Fraud Prevention Committee with some pride about the results that we've delivered there. And it's an ever-evolving challenge because those that seek to misuse public funds are always innovating, and so we need to as well, but we take the job very seriously. And then finally, for my portion, I will just note our organizational structure. We've got 4 bullets. The first 3 are represented by our programmatic deputies who are here: economic development, which relates to the business stuff; workforce services and transformation, led by Deputy Commissioner Rowe on my right; and workforce development, led by Deputy Commissioner Mark Majors, who is right behind me and will join us at the table in a moment; and then finally, our internal operations, general support services. So with that, I think I will turn to Deputy Commissioner McKinnon, and we don't have that projecting yet, do we? Yep. So we'll just need to continue from the printout, if that's okay.
State your name for the record and welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin McKinnon. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Economic Development. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the first couple slides that are in your packet. I will just mention that across the Economic Development Division, about 120 staff, there are 3 business units that I won't really talk about today, but I just want to acknowledge our broadband development program, important infrastructure across the state, big federal funding recipient, our labor force, or our labor market information team, which does a lot of our tracking of labor force, dealing with a lot of the federal data, tracking wages, et cetera. And then our trade office, which promotes our international activity and our exports. Generally today, what I'm going to be talking about more is what's called the Business and Community Development Division, which encompasses most of our grants, loans, tax credits, et cetera, that we run. The next slide, you can see activity over the last couple of years. It remains strong in the first 2 quarters of fiscal year 26, and our programs are in demand. So on the slide titled Growth and Expansion, speaking of some of that activity, we've seen a significant increase in projects in 2025 versus 2024. 122 this year were announced. We track this and we submit it nationally for comparisons across states and across regions. Some of these are supported through the programs that you see listed on the slide as well. These are really the ones that focus on our business investment, job creation projects, and really help Minnesota compete for those investment projects. A couple of different programs that I can talk about: the Job Creation Fund, the Minnesota Investment Fund. These are pretty standard tools. Runs the gamut, small companies all the way up to Solventum, as a matter of fact. And then our Minnesota Forward Fund, which obviously was created a couple of years ago, supporting large investment, transformational projects, if you will, for our state. Some significant progress there thus far with investments that have been announced, but also that we have been able to get into some training projects on behalf of some of these industries. So we're into artificial intelligence and data analytics. We're into microelectronics. And this is important because it's all done with, in partnership, and funded by the private businesses who are involved in this. And then, of course, there's a variety of upcoming awards that we'll see out of that program here upcoming. Over the last number of years, on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about our small business. We manage a lot of financing that is available through, generally through nonprofit organizations. Some of it comes through our organization, but generally most of it is done through loan committees and loan programs at nonprofits. You can see a sampling of our activity over fiscal year 25 and 26 on the slide. These are the programs for which we have more of the oversight over. Some of the programs that the nonprofits run, they don't report, they don't return money to us for a decade or so, but these are the ones that we have to provide approval for various grants and loans that they're doing. And specifically on the Promise Act, it doesn't, we aren't counting those numbers in the awards and things that we did this past year, but to date, over $22 million has been dispersed to over 1,200 businesses across greater Minnesota through our initiative foundations and in the metro through the Neighborhood Development Center. Round 1 is complete, round 2 is open, and our annual report is actually upcoming very soon. In addition, we provide a lot of assistance, and basically what we do is we enlist partners to help us reach the masses of businesses, if you will. So most of this is done through nonprofit organizations, higher education institutions, where they deliver one-on-one technical assistance to would-be entrepreneurs and or small businesses to help them grow. We also operate a call center and publish a bunch of resources on how to start a business, the steps that you should take in starting a business, some of the considerations that you might make, and deal with thousands of businesses every year through that center. Lastly, we've really ramped up our childcare efforts and our outreach to communities and businesses relating to this program. We have a lot of interagency coordination that we're involved with through various other state agencies that we continue to work on behalf of obviously small businesses, but also the communities in need of some of the childcare services. And lastly, another critical part of what we do is we help communities, your communities, be better prepared for development, and whether that's through infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, etc., whether that is through some of the special appropriations that your communities receive. We manage those investments that are made to support obviously business investment and tax-based growth for the communities. We also help them with cleaning up contaminated sites. We also help them with redeveloping existing properties, in addition to helping to build childcare facilities. And lastly, and something that maybe this committee isn't as familiar with, we've been enlisted for a number of years to help navigate permitting for a lot of our larger expansions, and that's done through the Minnesota Business First Stop. And so we have some staff that work across multiple agencies, but recently there was a new executive order that was just released. The First Stop plays a role in that program, but it also plays an important role in conveying important issues and important things that clients need to consider when they're expanding in Minnesota. So, for instance, data centers as an example, or someone doing sustainable aviation fuel. What are the considerations that you might make from an environmental permitting perspective when you're considering a location in Minnesota? So that is what I had for the economic development side, and then I would turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Rowe.
All right. And, state your name for the record and go forward with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. My name is Evan Rowe. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Workforce Services and Transformation at the department. So I just have a few slides just with a brief programmatic overview of the areas that are under my supervision. First I'll talk about estate services for the blind. This assists Minnesotans who are deaf or blind, deafblind, losing vision, or who have a disability that makes it difficult for them to read print, to find to keep a job. I'd just say our State Services for the Blind program is one of the leading programs in the country in terms of service and innovation, in terms of per capita service delivery. It has a really long and proud history of supporting low vision and blind Minnesotans. One programmatic element I'd just call out is the 2023 Jobs Bill created the Employer Reasonable Accommodation Fund, which is a first-in-the-nation program to reimburse small and mid-sized Minnesota employers for expenses tied to providing reasonable accommodations for employees with disabilities. This has been recognized nationally by workforce agencies and the like as a programmatic innovation, which makes it easy for small employers to do the right thing and for low vision and really all Minnesotans with disabilities to enter and stay in the workforce. Vocational rehabilitation services assist Minnesotans with disabilities to prepare for, find, and keep a job and to live independently. It provides employment-related services to thousands of Minnesotans with disabilities each year who seek competitive integrated employment. It also works with students with pre-employment transition services. State match funds essentially allow the program to maximize drawdown of federal grant funding and served over 14,000 individuals across the state in fiscal '25. Disability determination services is a program that essentially processes applications for federal disability benefits, the SSI and SSGI that Demographer Brower referenced in her presentation, and it also does work to review continuing eligibility for those benefits. And then we also refer disability applications for individuals who may benefit from rehab services to other state agencies. This is solely funded by the federal government and operates under many federal strictures, but it is a key part of our agency and does really important work for the people of Minnesota, so always want to call that out. Unemployment insurance pays eligible workers up to 50% of their average weekly wage, subject to a state maximum for up to 26 weeks. I'd say, again, Minnesota UI regularly ranks among the top 5 states in the country in achieving federal performance standards, and I imagine we'll have more chances to discuss that program. And paid leave. Paid leave provides job protections and payments from the state to individuals who need time off to care for themselves or to care for their loved ones. It launched officially on January 1st of this year, but we did start accepting some applications back in November and December of '25. And as we shared recently, as of January 1st, over 13,000 Minnesotans have been approved for paid leave. And I think this is all we're going to talk about paid leave this session. No, I think we actually have a session coming up in the not too distant future to discuss more about the program. So that was just my quick overview of the programs under my supervision.
Thank you so much, Mr. Majors. State your name for the record and flow with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon. Mark Majors, Deputy Commissioner for Workforce Development at DEED. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Before I get started, I just kind of want to let the committee know that we've actually gone through our grant-making process from the funds that were appropriated during the last session, and I want to congratulate my team in ensuring that all the awardees have been given notice, and so our grantees are on their way to starting their process. And in fact, today we had one of our first of 5 onboarding sessions that we do with our new grantees to talk about partnership and as well as accountability. So I tip my hat to my team for all the great work they've done this year. So in the first, I want to highlight some of our workforce development programs, particularly in our adult workforce programs. So you can see that there are several of them. Pathways to Prosperity is one of our signature adult training programs, which is serve individuals with low-income communities as well as individuals with multiple barriers to employment. I just want to highlight a couple of figures from you from the SFY performance data. We're still working on SFY 26. But in SFY 25, we served about 2,800 individuals. 2,300 of them were entered into training. 1,000 have attained credentials, and almost 600 actually have been placed already. So we're super excited about that. For our Women Economic Security Act, which is also one of our great programs that we offer up, that's actually training for individuals, particularly women, entering into non-traditional employment. We always have some great numbers. It ranges around about $25 an hour in terms of placement. So we're always excited to see that program succeed. On our adult support services, which are services that go to individuals as they're going through training, helps with driver's license attainment, as well as other things like tools and books. We continue to serve individuals to that program. And then so our Southeast Asian Economic Disparity Grant, which is workforce services that are provided in the Southeast Asian community. Some numbers just to highlight, again, from SFY 25, 457 individuals were served, 196 were enrolled in training, and of that 196, 145 folks have been placed. So those are kind of great, those are great numbers. Next slide, please. Like to highlight some of the great work that's happening in our youth workforce programs, our Youth at Work program that provides services to individuals 16 to 24, a lot of folks that may be in foster care or have multiple barriers to employment. And again, going back to the SFY 25 numbers, we served almost 12,000 individuals in that program. 10,000 of them received case management, and 73% of those individuals actually received some type of work readiness certification or educational skills training. Our Minnesota Youth Program, which is also another one of our wonderful programs that's actually administered by our local workforce development areas. We have 16 across the state. Approximately 4,300 people were served in SFY 25. 86 of those folks actually also received work readiness skills training as well as educational goals. And then the last one I just want to highlight is our Youth Build program, which is a pre-apprenticeship program, primarily for young people who are going into construction, and their training usually takes place on actually public housing projects. We had approximately about 597 individuals participate in training, and 95 of them have either entered into the apprenticeship program or been employed. And then I'd like to highlight one of our newer signature programs, which is our Drive for Five program, which is basically looking at how are we training and preparing individuals for the high growth industry with sustainable wage job careers. And those industries, just for I know a lot of you are maybe familiar with our education, manufacturing, healthcare, construction, and professional services. Some highlights from that program, again, SFY 25, we served almost 1,000 individuals, 725 folks have gone into training, 321 have received some type of credentialing. So super excited about that program. And then the Office of Public Service, and I got to put my glasses on for that one, aging. This is a new initiative for us, which is a unified state strategy for expanding access to public service. And you can see some of the highlights there. We already hired a really fantastic new director who's taking and running forward with this project. We've already started our progress with the public service landscape analysis, and then we hope to be rounding out and getting into contract really soon for our Service to Success grants.
Thank you so very much. Any questions for Deed? Any questions for Deed? Senator Pratt.
Has it been provided, and if so, can it be provided to the committee?
To the testifiers.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, would need to check. I know that we certainly have a large volume of throughput of those reports that we have sent, but the status of that one I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, so we'd need to get back to you.
And Senator Pratt will make sure that they follow up with it. When did we get it? It looks like, and we'll make it available to you, that we got it in January, the 27th of January, but we'll make that available to the rest of the committee. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And there was another report that's done every few years called the Net Impact Analysis. The last one was done in 2017. It was highlighted by the legislative auditor. When I was chair, we delayed that report because it was difficult to get that information and evaluate it through COVID. But now it's been 5 years. Commissioner, when are we going to expect that report?
Commissioner.
Because it should have been completed in 2025 would have been the next update.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, if I recall correctly, the legislature eliminated the requirement to do that report.
Okay, thank you. I didn't recall that.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then the other part of the legislative auditor's report I'd like an update on. We strengthened the reporting requirements last year in last session, but the legislative auditor had highlighted that nearly half the mandated reports that you list in your fraud prevention and oversight protocol weren't being collected. What have you done to improve the collection of those data where a grantee signed a contract to provide it? And in fact, I think we gave, if I remember the legislative auditor's report right, we gave out, oh, wait a minute, I probably have it here. We gave out several $1 million to people who hadn't completed that report in additional money. So what are we doing to tighten that up?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, I might refer to my colleague to share on that one.
Identify yourself for the record, and if you'll answer the question.
Sure. Mark Majors, Deputy Commissioner for Workforce Development. Mr. Chair, Senator, we did hear, we came out of the OLA report, and what I'd like to do is come back to you with the steps that we took after we looked at the recommendations and provide those to the community.
Senator Pratt, any follow-up?
No, thank you. It just, and what I recalled was that we paid $5 million to grantees with past due progress reports in violation of Office of Grant Management protocols and policies. So I just want to make sure that, this report that came out last March, we passed legislation, but a lot of grantees aren't covered by that legislation yet because it's brand new. But as we're looking at fraud, as we're looking at lack of oversight by the administration, I want to make sure that we're following up on those legislative auditor reports, because what it showed is from the governor's office through all these different agencies, we lack the financial controls and oversight necessary to ensure that these programs weren't being defrauded. And I just want to follow up on that OLA report because I thought it was a pretty bad report, quite honestly. And I think it's and one of the motivations for writing the bill that you included in your omnibus bill last year, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate I appreciate that being in there.
All right, Commissioner, you can get the last word before we go to Explore Minnesota.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman and Senator. And we certainly want to get to 100% on compliance with all of those OGM requirements. I would say that we are very proud of all the ways that we do get it right and all of the fraud that we have prevented. And in terms of our presentations that I've been part of, along with Deputy Commissioner Majors in front of the Fraud Prevention Committee, as well as Deputy Commissioner Rowe, we are happy to have, I think, received good marks for how well we do accomplish those things. Again, acknowledging that we want to get to perfection, but whether it is preventing fraud and paid leave or making sure that all of our nonprofit grantees under workforce development do provide their 990s and their financials and so forth, but we need to make sure that they are providing their updates in a timely fashion, and so remains a priority for us.
Senator Drahan.
Thank you, Chair. and thank you, gentlemen, for being here. You know, I get the impression that we're short on time, so I hope we have some time set up in the coming weeks that we could have a deeper dive on how we're trying to improve your agency to prevent the waste, fraud, and abuse that have been reported on almost weekly for the last year. I think the public is expecting more out of our state agencies than what we've been getting. And I think hopefully we'll have some committee time to dive a little deeper in what you see, Commissioner, that you can lead your team into doing better than what we've been as a state. And what improvements are you encouraging your staff to make so we can go towards that zero fraud, that every week there's a new fraud being reported. And I think people are being taxed to the maximum, and most, at least of my constituents, are fed up when they hear about some of the cases of fraud where I think the average person thinks that with a little common sense that could have been caught, and it could have been caught earlier, or it could have been stopped before it happened. So I know we don't really probably have time right now. We have a half hour left, and we have a couple more speakers, but I'm asking you, Chair, and you, Commissioner, that we should really have that discussion and see what your vision is for your department on what you're going to be doing to make improvements over the next year. So thank you.
Commissioner, you could certainly speak, and Senator Draheim, we are always concerned about agencies doing better, but when you say every week, it is not by this agency, and I think that's important to make it clear for the public, because the way we are talking about this at this table right now is as if DEED is the agency every single week that we're hearing something about, and we put some safeguards in because the majority of resources that come from DEED are reimbursable. And so there's a process. And so I just want us to be really clear about that before I go to Senator Pott.
So you're absolutely correct. Chair, I know not every report comes from DEED, and I didn't mean to imply that, but I do think we could do better.
There's always room for improvement. That is always my motto. I just like to make sure that when we...
Chair, are you committed then to have a hearing just on waste, fraud, and abuse then?
Every agency that comes up, we will talk about that, because that's something that we're going to do, but we're not going to be political about this. We're going to make sure that if there's a problem, we want to identify it, and I want us to be fair when we're talking about where waste, abuse, or fraud is coming from, and those agencies should definitely improve, because we want to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I'm going to Senator Pott.
Mr. Chair, to that point, may I?
I've been holding her off, but if you're going to say something
to that point, I just want to respectfully disagree with your assessment. I don't think that we made an assertion that DEED was part of the weekly fraud drip, but looking at the OLA report certainly showed that there are risks in that, and I simply quoted from the OLA report. And so I respectfully disagree with your perspective and your conclusion that was what we were doing. In no way was that any part of it.
And thank you, Senator Pratt. Let me be very clear, because when you said something about fraud, and then my good friend Senator Draheim, who says every single week we're hearing on the news, one could connect those two things to suggest that DEED is doing that. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. We do not want to give any room or excuses to fraud. I just want to make sure that we're clear in our language. So to your request there, Senator Draheim, we'll always review and look at the issue of fraud, because I think that's important. Senator Pott.
Thank you, Chair. Many of my businesses in my districts have, over the past year, and particularly the past few months, have experienced severe revenue losses, reduced foot traffic, staff disruption, and frankly, instability due to ICE activities. I represent Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, which was very impacted. Most of these are small, locally owned businesses, mom and pop, that can't withstand prolonged economic shock. A few of the businesses in my district will never reopen again, never. A few of them are trying to recover and reopen. A few of them have reduced their hours, reduced their days of operation. I'm wondering what data is DEED currently tracking to measure the impacts that we have seen, including revenue declines, closures, layoffs, absenteeism, or supply disruption. And has the department produced or commissioned in Minnesota-specific impact report? And do you think that that would be helpful if you have not? Because as a member of this committee and as a senator, I want to fully understand the scope of the economic impacts that we have felt and experienced, and what can we do to support our small businesses to recover and to prevent more small businesses from closure. But until we know and have an assessment, how do we find solutions?
All right, Commissioner, if you will, briefly, or whoever's going to speak to this issue, because we have a couple other presentations.
Mr. Chair, Senator, thank you very much. Very important question, and this relates closely to the context that I mentioned of what a hard time it has been lately, because we too are hearing from so many business owners and just business leaders about the impact of the presence of those federal agencies and the tactics that have been used, and just to elaborate on how this translates into economic harm, the fear of the way the tactics have been deployed means that, including people who are fully legal, are in some cases fearful to go to work, and many customers have also been fearful as well, and so that either means reduced foot traffic and reduced revenue or outright closure. I've recounted the anecdote in the past that we have launched a Shop Local, Stand Together campaign with the governor announcing the month of February as a Shop Local month. And before we got to that point, a former member of this committee and I, Senator Eric Putnam from the St. Cloud area where I come from as well, we went out. We were intending to go out to dinner and just support a local immigrant-led business, and when we got there, it was closed, we think, because of this, and so then we had to go to Plan B. So there are very significant impacts. Deputy Commissioner McKinnon, who's here behind me and you heard from a moment ago, among other units, he supervises our labor market information unit. So that's our data house, so to speak, and we do the work together with the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, producing the monthly jobs figures, unemployment rate, labor force participation, et cetera. I don't know that we have our own, that we have the resources to deploy our own kind of ad hoc survey on this particular issue, but what we have been doing, of course, is tracking carefully data that are being produced by others, such as, I know the city of Minneapolis and Mayor Fry just recently announced at a press conference last week, I believe it was, $203 million total impact, which a portion of is accounted for by business loss, but also some direct costs to the city itself. And then, as I always like to emphasize, given that I'm in a statewide responsibility, multiply what is happening in Minneapolis by St. Paul, by Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, St. Cloud, Little Falls, Wilmer, and on and on and on. And you can see it's a massive impact, which is why we've done the things that we've tried to do, including the Shop Local campaign led by the governor. We've also been very grateful to stand together with many of the businesses that are supporting each other to the extent they can. And then, for example, R.T. Ryback leading the Minneapolis Foundation with a private fund, actually multiple funds there. Latino Economic Development Center has stood up its own emergency response fund. And then most recently on Thursday of last week, stood with the governor and an owner of a supermarket in St. Paul, announcing a proposal to you, the legislature, for a new $10 million response program that would provide for partially forgivable loans targeting small businesses between, I think, $250,000 in annual revenue up to $4 million in revenue, zero interest loans, 3-year term, opportunity for 50% forgiveness at the 1-year mark if they can show that they have maintained employment roughly where they were before and show that they've had impact by Metro Surge.
And Senator Pratt, we will make sure that we have something that is going to be on this topic next Wednesday. And so if there's any additional discussions, that if you guys can have those, but we're going to have the mayors of both Minneapolis, St. Paul, other businesses, and others so that we can talk about this. And lastly, the governor made that announcement. We don't know where the governor came up with the $10 million number. We don't know what fund that they were thinking about it. We know that the forecast has not been put forward yet. So there's a lot of questions, even though he talks about what the governor put forward. And there was no discussion or information that he gathered from this committee for us to, weigh into what even his proposal is. But we will have a proposal of our own that we will go through the necessary steps around. If you could be brief, because we really do have 2 more in subcommittee, I will need you to stay just a little longer because we want to give the others their time that they deserve. Senator Pop.
Thank you, Chair. I won't ask any more questions. I'll wait for that next one, but I do just want to say that I believe that a statewide economic impact assessment and report is absolutely necessary. I'm glad that the city of Minneapolis did their own so they can have an understanding of the impact in their city, but we need one that's statewide. I know that there's other chambers that are doing their own assessment based on their membership, and that's great information. But like I said, when we're talking about what we can do to support our businesses statewide, we need to understand what that is. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Deed, for you being here. We sincerely appreciate it, and we'll circulate that information that we got from you to the committee as well. We'll next go to Explore Minnesota.
Thank you.
So Ms. Laura Bennett Magenti, could you come up to the testifier table? That would be great. You see that we have a little time challenges because we certainly want to hear everything from the next presenter as well. So if you state your name for the record, and let's go from there.
Thank you, Chair and members. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Lauren Bennett McGinty, and I'm the Executive Director of Explore Minnesota. I also just want to say thank you for putting me after both Deed and the Demographer, because I do have things to add to their presentation, so happy to help. I will note just at the top, I know we don't have a lot of time, but Explore Minnesota has put out a statewide survey to tourism businesses throughout, and we're already at 200 responses. It closes today. We do have some data back already about the impact both in the metro and outside of the metro area. I also can tell you that I believe Hospitality Minnesota will be working with the Federal Reserve to put out a survey maybe next week, I think. So there will be data available at a statewide level that we'd be happy to share next week if you'll have us. So just wanted to put that in. Again, appreciate the time today. I will talk fast. I always do at this committee, but I will run through who we are, what we do, and what we've been working on. So Explore Minnesota's role is to sustainably grow Minnesota's economy by welcoming all through innovative and inclusive marketing, storytelling, and industry partnerships. And at our core, we drive visitation, support local businesses, strengthen communities, and ensure that the investments made on behalf of Minnesota deliver measurable economic value. And bottom line, put net new dollars into the state of Minnesota. And I will say we are pretty good at what we do. We get to be the bragging agency of the state of Minnesota, and one of the things that we do well is our marketing, and we won 2 awards at a national tourism conference last year, the only state to win 2. We also were nominated for an international award at City Nations Place for our Explore Minnesota for Business work. So we are getting recognized throughout the world. Our work is guided by 5 strategic imperatives, as you can see here. It's the framework for how we do everything. We continue to provide resources to the industry, but we also work in tandem with other state agencies, as mentioned previously. And we align all of our programs. Some of you might remember that we do have Explore Minnesota Film, Explore Minnesota for Business, and Outdoor Recreation under our umbrella, and we ensure that those all work together and that the investments through those shared priorities are sound and return good dollars to the state. And it is far more cost-effective to integrate those programs so that they can all lift each other. This is just a quick overview of our budget allocation for fiscal year 25. The majority of our operating budget is invested directly in marketing and communications, as you can see here. That's where we see the strongest return of investment in terms of visitation and economic impact. We also invest in technology significantly, and that includes exploreminnesota.com. So that's one of our largest digital assets that we have. We support the industry welcome centers, 6 welcome centers across the state, and we have targeted grants for the industry as well. Our focus is to maximize the impact and ROI of our existing resources to leverage private and in-kind partnership as stated in our statute, and being thoughtful stewards of taxpayer dollars. I will move on to what that looks like in dollars and cents for the state of Minnesota. As you can see here, we had 81 million visitors in 2025. I will note the numbers that we have are technically the year 2024, the calendar year. We usually get the numbers later in the following year, so we're waiting on 2025, and we'll get those in about June. But we welcome more than 81 million visitors, generated nearly $25 billion in total economic impact, and supported over 182,000 jobs across the state. We also generate $2.4 billion in state and local tax revenue and $1.8 billion in federal taxes. The level of activity helps offset the tax burden for Minnesotans as well. So tourism saves all of your households over $1,000 each year, which I think is critically important as we are then returning money directly into our community. When we look at our work over time, we've been tracking over the last 20 years, and we just sort of updated this year, and I think it's really important to show the growth that we've had. We've increased visitation by more than 180%, visitor spending by nearly 50%, which accommodates inflation as well, and then of course tax generation by 300%. So it reflects that our strategy is working, and we've significantly contributed to the long-term growth of Minnesota's economy. More money savings for you here. For every $1 that we invest in our campaign, and this is for our most recent spring-summer campaign, we return nearly $500 in visitor spending, and the state recaptured about $47 in tax revenue. Again, that's for every $1 spent. And then one of the key pieces of information that I like to share is that because of Explore Minnesota's marketing, we actually gained an additional $1.5 billion in spending. So that means if people hadn't seen our ads, we wouldn't have made that much money. So again, mentioning that we have all of these great programs under our umbrella. This year has been the first year that film has had a full year. Our outdoor recreation team we have one person, but he's been working really hard on all of the work that he does. So all of these programs work together. And again, when you invest in one area, we strengthen all the others, creating a more competitive, resilient Minnesota that attracts visitors, talent, and investment. And as a sidebar to the talent part, I do not necessarily know all the reasons why people chose to move to Minnesota, but I'd like to take some credit because of our Explore Minnesota for Business campaign that did launch last year and was highly successful. We were in more places throughout the country than we've ever been, and I hope that that had some contribution to that rise in net migration. Just a quick overview of Explore Minnesota Film and Outdoor Recreation. Since the Explore Minnesota film program started under Explore Minnesota in 2024, we've seen a 200% increase in productions in the state of Minnesota. We've added 20 plus film-ready communities, which are communities throughout the state. I'm sure many of your communities are participants. They learn about permitting and what it takes to bring a production to their community. And we have 13 productions currently in the pipeline. The budget for that program is $825,000 per year. I will say that when people come to Minnesota to create a production of some kind that is direct investment into your communities, they must spend a minimum of $1 million in the community in Minnesota expenses to be able to qualify for a tax credit. So we have seen in the last year alone $6.5 million in direct investment into communities across the state. We also partner with different groups like the Upper Midwest Film Office who work on bringing films to Northeast Minnesota. Outdoor recreation, as you can see, is also a really big business. We just released our first economic impact report last year, putting at $13.5 billion in gross domestic product for the industry, $23.5 billion in economic output, and then 96,000 jobs supported by outdoor recreation with just a $150,000 budget. And we're very excited this August to welcome Outdoor Retailer, which is the largest trade show devoted to innovation and outdoor recreation. And they expect tens of thousands of visitors to Minneapolis. The great news there is that they permanently moved to Minnesota after being out west because they felt that we had one of the best outdoor recreation locations in the country. So our marketing strategy is designed to deliver the greatest statewide return. We prioritize year-round visitation, especially when it turns from spring to back to winter on a day like today. We have regional balance. We really do support statewide audiences, and we make sure that the people that we're marketing to are aligned with Minnesota and what they want to do when they get here. So we use digital advertising, opportunistic moments like major events, and specifically target based on interest and location throughout the country. One of the biggest things that we've had to face in the last year is digital infrastructure. As you're probably all aware, AI has taken over the world, and so goes the Google search results. So our job is to make sure that Minnesota appears in more places, and with AI and Gemini, we did lose a significant number of direct visitors to our site, so we remapped and redid several components of our website to ensure that if Gemini was guiding people's travel plans, Explore Minnesota's website was included in that and is still maintaining a top ranking, which is good for communities because all of their information is on our website, and then we can drive more people to more destinations via exploreminnesota.com. We've had great media coverage over the last year throughout the country, both through digital platforms like USA Today, CNN Travel, Afar, Business Insider, and Travel and Leisure. We also have had more than 2.85 billion impressions with an estimated $10.2 million in ad value. And we did several appearances across the country to talk about all of the great things Minnesota has going on, which gleaned a lot of new visitors. We also have significant support for the tourism industry, which goes beyond just funding. We provide our co-op marketing program, which buys down the cost of advertising for destinations across the state. We also provide grants, industry tools and resources, training. We just completed our annual conference last week, and it was one of our highest attended in Duluth. And we provide data and insights and coordinated partnerships as well. This broader support really does help destinations promote themselves, not just to Minnesotans, but beyond. And it's a statewide role that we play. And you know, that role is to generate demand for the state, like I mentioned before. We really want to ensure that we're coordinating with our colleagues, not just at destinations, but the various associations that represent them to ensure visibility and help communities amplify their own strengths. We've worked significantly with tribal nations over the last year as well. We've had consultations with 8 of the 11 tribal nations that share geography with Minnesota, and we are working on a new tribal nations website program so that they may be able to tell their stories on our website as well.
And can you go to looking ahead? Because I think that's probably what we want.
Happy to, absolutely.
Yeah, that's okay.
Looking ahead. I can quickly just touch on our spring summer campaign, which will launch in March, and we will be in 11 states as well as Dallas and Chicago, and we'll also minimally market in Minnesota. Again, net new dollars is the goal. And then finally, looking ahead, our focus does remain on efficiency and effective use of taxpayer dollars, balancing that integrated approach, connecting with our partners statewide, and then, of course, positioning Minnesota for long-term sustainable growth. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. You were wonderful. That was great information. And we have our packet, just in case. Any other questions before we go to our last presenter? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Hurd.
Yeah, you know, I have a deep feeling right now with circumstance that with federal deployment and all that, but I shouldn't ignore this factor, not involving ICE, but Last year, I recall when Hayden was here talking about getting, the film board to give smaller filmmaker a more opportunity. What's the development of that?
Ms. Magenti.
Thank you, Chair. Senator. That would be a statutory change. So we currently do not have the ability to provide tax credits to anyone who is making production that is spending less than $1 million in the state of Minnesota.
And Senator Her, I did have a conversation with Senator Rest about that as well, because that was something that was brought up. So you and I can talk about that and then figure out how we change that. All right, thank you so very much. We are now thanking the others for their patience. Last but certainly not least, we have the Women's Foundation who's going to come forward. Come on, Women's Foundation. We have Roxanne Battle and Dr. Christine Iwig. Come up to the testifiers table. That would be great. And if I pronounce a name wrong, please correct me. And while they get settled, I just want to say that my CA Tom informed me that the Women's Foundation was the only presenter we had today that had their information to us the Friday before the hearing. So that is always so appreciative. I want to also say that as someone who appreciates being early and planning things out in advance, we certainly appreciate that. Once you all are ready, we're going to give you our undivided attention, and we thank you for being patient. So whoever's going to start off, if you will state your name for the record and go ahead with your presentation.
For the record, my name is Roxanne Battle, and I am Vice President of Communications and Strategic Initiatives for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Thank you, Chair Champion, for alluding to my previous television news career, and for the opportunity to be here today to present the Status of Women and Girls in Minnesota report, which we produce every 2 years with the Center on Women, Gender, and Public Policy at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School. I'm here today with Dr. Christina Ewig, the lead researcher on that report and director of the center. The Women's Foundation, for background, has been around for 43 years and is the first foundation in the country dedicated exclusively to investing in women and girls statewide. And that's because women face disproportionate barriers in the workforce and earnings, generational wealth building, safety and leadership while taking on additional roles at home and with our families. It was true back then when we were founded, and it is true today. So today, we're sharing data points and opportunities we see to build stronger Minnesota communities that support all women, women at work, women at home, women across the street or around the corner. The reality is, as you've seen from the slides, that the data looks bleak, especially when you consider that some of us face more barriers than others. Yet we believe that there is potential for growth, advancement, and change, because when women and girls thrive, everybody thrives. And this research is unique and comprehensive in that it looks at traditional race and ethnic categories, as well as experiences of women in greater Minnesota and rural Minnesota, age, disability, sexuality, and how all of those lived experiences intersect and affect access and opportunity. It's our hope that you'll consider our findings as you look at important policy and funding choices which benefit Minnesotans, because without action, research is quite simply pointless. And that's why the Women's Foundation looks to the Status of Women and Girls report to inform our decisions about investments in organizations and policies that make a difference, like the paid family and medical leave, and we want to thank you for your support on that legislation. For our purposes today, we're focused on research on, of course, economics, because economic security intersects every aspect of a woman's life: health, safety, access to leadership opportunities, and we feel it's crucial, and we remain hopeful, that as you craft policies to drive economic growth, you'll consider the many lived experiences of women throughout the state of Minnesota. And to talk more about those economic realities, it's my pleasure to introduce, I'll hand it over to Dr. Ewig.
If you'll be so kind to state your name for the record and go forward with your presentation, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Dr. Christina Ewig. I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota's Humphrey School of Public Affairs, where I direct the Center on Women, Gender, and Public Policy. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for this opportunity to present our latest research. The Center on Women, Gender, and Public Policy regularly analyzes existing data to assess the status of women and girls in Minnesota. We rely on, in our economic analysis, largely on a 5-year sample of the American Community Survey conducted by the Census Bureau. So much of what I will present comes from that source. So women in Minnesota work. I'm advancing. It's got a little delay up there. 79% of women ages 16 to 64 are employed in Minnesota. That's among the highest in the nation. That's been a trend for some years. We used to be the highest. The last several years we've been trailing the District of Columbia, but not by much. 78% of mothers with children under 6 are also employed in the workforce. And women in our state earn the majority of post-secondary degrees. And they are a substantial number of primary breadwinners in their families. So they are either earning the single income or the larger income in a couple household. For example, 36% of Asian mothers are primary breadwinners for their family and 55% of Black mothers. But despite high levels of engagement in paid work and responsibility for family economic well-being, Minnesota women continue to earn less than men. Overall, the overall figure is 81 cents for every dollar earned by a white male that women in the state earn. This is you will probably remember from my previous presentations to this committee, this number is fairly similar because it's very sticky. We have seen, in fact, 10 years ago, the exact same number in 2016 of 81 cents on the dollar. There's been a little bit of fluctuation in between, downwards. Now we're back to 2016 rates. If we look at this graph, what we do is we disaggregate these numbers by race and ethnicity, where we see that white women make just a little bit over that 81-cent average at 83 cents to every dollar earned by white men, and Black women earn just 61 cents for every dollar earned by white men. But this still hides variation. For example, if we broke down the category of Black, Somali women earn much less than African American women, 58 cents for every dollar earned by white men compared to 64 cents for African American women. And Hmong women similarly earn just 59 cents for every dollar earned by white men. And let's be clear what that means. When you earn 42% less per hour for the same hours worked, as in the case of Somali women, you're not paying 42% less for your rent or for your food at the grocery store, right? You've got to make things, make ends meet in other ways. It may mean less food. It may mean living with other family members in terms of housing. It may mean less investment in the future, and that I think is really key, whether it's in housing one owns or whether it's in education for one's children. In this next slide, we show rental housing affordability. According to the federal government, we should all only be spending 30% of our income if we're renters on rental housing. Yet what this figure shows us is among Minnesota's single mothers, 78% of Black single mothers are over that 30% mark, as are most other groups. So that lower wage gap has an impact in terms of how much, for example, rent is taking out of one's overall household budget. So what makes that wage gap happen in the first place? The biggest contributor is the occupational segregation within our workforce. The demographer previously talked about different occupations having different racial and immigrant profiles. We certainly see that for gender as well. This graph will look familiar to you from my last presentation because it really has not changed for a very long time. Women make up, for example, just 3% of construction trades, which is that tiny little pink dot at the very top. And that is among the highest paid. Those that are predominantly male occupations with more green are among the highest paid occupations at about an average of $25 an hour, versus those that are majority female at the bottom have an average wage of $21 an hour, and we see about 80% of healthcare support workers, for example, being women at the bottom. And this isn't about skill differences. It's not that those in construction have incredibly more skill than those that are healthcare workers. In fact, we can see some important differentiations if we look at a childcare worker, for example, a 94% female workforce, but most of those workers have some kind of college education versus, for example, a janitor that does not have a college education, generally speaking, and is a primarily male workforce, yet childcare workers earn about $2.50 less per hour on average than a janitor in the state of Minnesota. The second biggest driver of the wage gap is discrimination. This is hard for us to measure. For example, sometimes discrimination shows up in this occupational segregation. I had a conversation with a home health care worker recently who told me how she had made her way to being a journeyman in construction, working in some of our most prestigious buildings in the city, and was fed up with the harassment that she faced on the job and shifted to home health care work. Her discrimination doesn't show up in our figures. It's hard to capture that, except to know that she moved in this wage scale and occupational scale towards the bottom from the very top. But that is a form, one way in which we can't capture discrimination, but it's happening. Other ways we can capture it is when we look at men and women in the exact same jobs, similar amount of experience, and years on the job, similar education. But when we see a gap in their wages, then we can suspect that there's discrimination going on. Other times there's the glass ceiling effect, where women simply aren't promoted to the very top tiers. And that's actually where we see the largest impacts of the gender wage gap, at the very top of the pay scales. So we have seen some good news since the last time I presented to you, and that is a recent study by my colleague at the University of Minnesota's School of Public Health, Dr. Jeanette Dill. I previously worked with her on research that showed the exodus of low-wage healthcare workers out of, for example, work in nursing homes in our state, which was causing a crisis. Her most recent research shows an increase in the wages for these workers, and so hopefully that will help to bring people back into a much needed area of work, and shows the importance of good wages for attracting good talent, especially at the lower echelons of the wage scale. Overall, women in Minnesota, that gender wage gap cost them over a 40-year period, over a lifetime, $415,960 compared to their male peers. And that's where I really want you to think about, over a lifetime, what you might do with $400,000. If you had an extra $400,000, you might invest it in a car to get to work, in housing, maybe a down payment, or investing in your kids' education. There's a lot that can be done, and that gap adds up. Another important piece that helps women get into the workforce is childcare, and I know that's an interest of this committee. Care responsibilities, whether it's for childcare or elders or disabled relatives, can often keep women in particular out of the workforce or lead them to work part-time, fewer hours, and that is tied over the long term with that $400,000 gap. If you're working fewer hours, that you're earning less money, you're also being penalized in terms of experience, and that experience, especially if you take time completely out of the workforce, can penalize you over the long term in terms of salaries. When we look at childcare, only 7% of Minnesota families fall in the federal guidelines of spending only 7%, they're both 7%, of one's income on childcare. Can you imagine that? Only 7% meet that guideline. The very top of that graph shows married white couples that on average still spend 16%, more than double the federal recommended guideline, because childcare is expensive. But when we get to a Native American single mother, the long purple line at the bottom, it's multiple times the average salary for a single Native mom. So it's just completely unattainable. So let me move quickly to some solutions. I would say that this legislature has made some progress on items that can help with discrimination in the workforce. For example, the recent pay transparency law. I would say that the legislature could go to a new level in terms of transparency. Instead of simply having salary bands that are posted on job positions, one could require public posting of gender disparities, potentially other disparities in wages of certain job categories. That is what many different states do, or a few different states do, as well as many other countries, as a way to combat gender discrimination in the wage gap. The state has had a comparable wage law for many years, since 1984, that applies to the public sector. I would be curious to see new evaluation of how well that law is working and whether it might be expanded. There was old data that showed it worked very well, but that at this point is fairly old, at least to my knowledge. I don't know of a recent study. The passage of the paid family leave was, as my colleague noted, was very important. We'll see how it plays out, but that can help, and we know across the world where there is robust paid family leave, that helps women in particular to stay engaged with the workforce. And finally, DEED has had some good progress in terms of investing, especially in childcare in rural areas, which is where we've seen the biggest problem in Minnesota in terms of lack of childcare spots for families. I think there still needs to be emphasis on business incentives for childcare providers in order to really close the gap that we have in terms of the supply of childcare to meet the demand. So I focused on wages because that's, of course, key to many other pieces of economic security. We are, of course, interested in not just wages, but how they fit into the broader picture of providing stable housing, opportunities for growth over the long term, and investment in the next generation. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much. Any questions? I will say this. Thank you again for the information. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient. Roxanne, I have an intern back there. Her name is Sian. She is an international and marketing student from University of Minnesota. So it'd be great for you to say hi to her so she can see another person that she can aspire to be like. Any questions for the testifiers? And I will say this, Doctor, if you would even send us an email with your notice solutions on it, anything else that we didn't get a chance to cover here, because we really want to make sure that we're being responsive, and this presentation was very, very helpful. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to do that.
Any other questions or anyone? All right. Thank you. And now, last thing that I'll say to members, this concludes our business for this meeting. We know that you guys like to sometimes come late but leave early, but so we're going to try to be as thoughtful around that. I know you're here. Our next meeting will be on Monday, February 23rd, during which we will hear from DEED about paid family medical leave and have time to ask questions. Then on Wednesday, February 25th, we will have an informational hearing on the economic impact of Operation Metro Surge and ICE on our state. With that, the committee is adjourned. Thank you to Tom, thank you to Taylor, and for everyone that has worked to make this meeting a success.